Hello, all you cool orcs and goblins. This is Hugh the Lizard, bringing you the Week 7 recap. Sadly, I do not have Innovation with me again. The shutdown in the UK, I think, has really messed up his schedule. I hope he'll be able to join us later on, but for now, I think we can muddle through with just me. If anyone is interested in coming on as a guest, no need to have watched any of the games, but just show up with your opinions about how the division is shaping up, how your particular season is going, how you view the other teams, and we can have a great chat about that. That's an open invitation to anyone who is interested. But if you're not, it's fine. I am perfectly fine talking to myself. I've been doing it for many, many a year, so I'm very comfortable doing it. Was there another? I feel like there was another programming note I want to. Oh yeah. Just so everyone knows, I will be at 2 o'clock my time, so that would be 6 o'clock UTC. I'm going to be streaming my own game in my own division. If anyone's interested in checking that out, then that's when I'll be doing that. Okay, let's go right into. Oh, yes, I should also mention I don't have clips for this week. It's a little time consuming for me to do clips for every single game if I'm doing the whole thing by myself. So I've watched all the games. And I have thoughts on all the games, but I won't be showing any clips. Uh, Bit of a bummer because I like doing the clips, but it would take too much time, and I want to do clips for some and clips for others. There were some great moments in a lot of these games that I really wish I had clipped, but c'est la vie. Okay, going forth to the Children of Dune versus Barry and the Lads. This started off a fun game. I really enjoy watching any game with Barry and the Lads in it. Start off with Barry himself, the great big monster, getting a ball from a touchback. Now, if we're gonna be like, uh, what's the term, tryhards about it? I don't like that term, but if you want to be like sort of like, what's the best tactical move? Probably not giving it to the guy who will only move on the 4+ or hit on the 2+ with Wild Animal. Probably not the greatest move, but it was fun to see, and that ultimately is the purpose. So I can say that the level of fun that I think giving Barry the ball outweighs the probably not the best way to win of it. Really hoping that Barry was going to score. I think it would have been his second score of the season. But he was brought down by Russell. Uh, Damn Russell. Shucks. Still, the Chaos team was able to score, even though the score wasn't done by Barry, and the Rats failed the one turn due to a snakes on their pickup. So it's 1-0 for Chaos at the end of the first half. In the second half, we see a couple of cage dives from a Chaos Warrior, which is also fun. Possible, of course, because they're agi for Chaos Warriors. But still, it's not something you see every day, so I was happy to see it. The first one I thought was a good one. It was a 4+ to get into the cage, and it succeeded. It did its job, though the Rats were able to recover the ball. The second one I thought was a little bit more iffy. Skaven had done a lot after realizing that the cave drive was something that the Chaos could do, the Skaven team became a lot more careful about how they set up their cage. And the second cage drive, which was a 5+, I like a 5+. You gotta commit the team reroll to. Um, it was just a little too chancy, and it was early enough in the game that I don't think that kind of desperation play was necessary. He would have been better off, I think, pressuring for the score so that the Chaos team could get the ball back and get the equalizer. Or, sorry, not the equalizer, but the 2-1 win. Turn later, that's ultimately what the Chaos does, and they do force the Skaven score, but they kind of gave up a turn by trying that cage dive. The last drive of the game, Chaos handed the ball to the Rats due to what really was a lack of patience. They had 4 turns to score, and they decided to do a pass. Even with Agility 4, when you're doing, I think it was a long pass, it's when you don't have a built-in reroll, you could have made the ball safe without doing it. I appreciate that you have the tool, so you want to use it, but it probably wasn't the best time to use it. Getting a little bit more distance and then doing the pass would have been the better play, I think. And I think that's ultimately doing that pass, which had the fail catch, which made it easy for the Rats to retrieve, is what won the game. But the Children of Doom, I think, played the advantage that was handed to them very well. They moved the ball backwards so that the Chaos couldn't get at them, and then looked for the opportunity. It was basically became a Skaven 3-turner, which the Skaven are perfectly capable of doing. So it ended with a 2-1, as you can see, for the Children of Doom. Not much more to say about these teams. It looks like we don't have any perms and we don't have any level ups. The big news is, of course, Barry suffered MNG. What was the circumstances? Did I know how it happened anywhere? Oh yeah, so he is he was strength busted Apo into an MNG. So there was a second there where I thought Barry's time on the team was ended, but the Apo saved him. Maybe Barry Jr. would have made an appearance instead. But yeah, that's it for that game. Let's look at the Jeanne d'Arc fanboys versus the Knuffle X Mechana. The humans, I think, had a fair bit of bad luck in their first drive. Starting off really with the Ogre, who on a 3-die hit rolled. Did he roll 3 skulls? No, he rolled 2 skulls and up both down with a 3-die hit. Really unfortunate that happens, but I think the thing to keep in mind is that can happen. I think it's good. It was what he did was he had the Ogre doing one of the line of scrimmage hits, and so he was able to set up the 3-die. And I think that's a good way to use the Ogre in the first turn of an offensive drive. I do the same thing with my Kroxigor. I actually do the same thing with my Ogre on my clan team. But I always do that hit last. And I do that hit last because even though you get the 3-die, the chances of you getting a I think it's like a 1 in 27 when you don't have block, is still high enough that everything else that you're going to be doing in that turn is going to be safer. So do all your other hits. Pick up the ball, secure the ball, and then do the Ogre last. And I think that would have saved Nepha Ex Machina a lot of trouble if they had done it that way. I know we talk a lot about big guys. Innovation is against them. I think that they can be great if you kind of come up with ways to make sure you're being safe as you use them. And I think that there's been a few times that a few different teams have kind of been a little reckless with their big guys. So that's something I continue to encourage everyone to think about. But that wasn't the end of the Nuffle Ex Machina bad luck. They failed a pass that gave the Bretts an opportunity to score. But the luck kind of switched for a bit because the score was prevented by a tripwire. Even after that, there was a few more turns of the humans trying to secure the ball, failing, barely able to stop the Brits from taking the ball and scoring, but they did manage to finally get the ball, move it down the field, and score. It must have been a pretty stressful first half for Nuffle Ex Machina, and frustrating first half for John the Arc fanboys because you could feel them about to score a couple times and they just couldn't quite get it. So really a mixed bag in terms of luck. In the second half, it looks like the John the Arc fanboys looks like they were doing a pretty good job, but they were leaning very heavily on the Agi Five Knight to he was kind of the star for a few turns where it looks like the humans were gonna mob him, and he just kind of ran around them, ran through them, did Agi5 stuff, and managed to escape. So that was, and I think the way that John the Arc, or rather Flaming Dude, used the Agi5, I think he used it in ways that reduced the risks, maximized the reward. So I thought that was good, but he kind of dropped the ball when it came to setting up his final cage. He created a loose cage that the humans were able to bring the Agi5 player down, and they actually managed to recover with the thrower, who passed the catcher. And the only thing that stops from this becoming a 2-0 game for the humans was diving tackle, which has been actually pretty useful in a few games this week. I feel like diving tackle is something that works for other people and never works for me, but that's just sour grapes on my part. So let's look at the teams. Again, no level ups. We have a badly hurt on one of the blitzers, and not even that much on the humans, so not anything new to talk about. Humans got a lot of blocks on John the Arc. I think it just having that strength blitzer and a little more guard made it easier for the humans to kind of dominate the bash game in most of the game. Did I not? Am I missing one? No, this is not in order, that's why. Hang on a second. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So, the Flaming Zons versus the Bourbon Street Brawlers. The Orcs were handicapped by their failure to get some early removals. I think that's really what the Orcs need to do for this game, but the removals for much of the game were actually pretty even. There were 9 Orcs versus 9 Elves on the field, and I think it's one of those. It really did feel like one of those matchups where the Orcs needed to reduce the number of elves on the field to get much done. Removals did come for the Orcs. You can see that they got 4 casualties and 2 KOs on the Flaming Zons. But it came kind of too late. By the time that happened, the game had progressed to a point where it didn't help as much as it would have if it had happened earlier. In terms of gameplay, I felt like the Orcs didn't really do enough to defend the ball and suffered a great deal for it. There was one point where there was a 2-die hit on sidestep blodge diving tackle player that's somewhere here, sidecar. And he took the hit, but taking the hit was a really big mistake because it let diving tackle sidestep onto the ball carrier, which kind of produced a problem that didn't exist before that he had to deal with. Taking the hit ultimately is fine, I think, but he needed to first move the ball and figure out where he wanted the ball to be and then decide to take the hit. I kind of understand how this sort of thing happens. And it happens to me too. It really comes down to the fact that it's a really cognitively difficult game, Blood Bowl. You really have to think through every decision you make and what the positives outcomes will be compared to the negative outcomes. There's not a lot that you should be doing automatically. I think every decision has to be a conscious decision. Otherwise, you're going to get mistakes like pushing diving tackle onto your ball carrier and then having to spend the rest of the turn trying to get him off, which he did, but it took the actions of, I think, 2 other players that could have been put to better use. So one of the reasons I like Blood Bowl is because it's a bit of a thinking game with dice. So I just want to throw that out there that you should try not to make oh, here's a hit, here's a hit, here's a hit. Think through what you're trying to achieve, where the ball is, where you want the ball to end up, and that will ultimately help with everyone's gameplay. As for the Elf Union, the Bourbon Street Brawlers, I think they played a really solid game. I liked the amount of patience that they had waiting for their first shot at the ball in the first drive. One reason why I'm bad at playing Elves and Skaven is I get all excited because I'm like, I can hit the ball at will, I'm going to do it, and that's not really the way you should be playing either of those teams. So when I see other coaches doing a good job of being patient and waiting for their chance, I always admire that. So I just want to bring that up. We do have a couple level ups, as well as some MNGs. The thrower MNG is unfortunate, but probably livable given he has another thrower. Not as good of a thrower. He won't be able to sit back with strong arm and accurate and pass it over everyone's heads with safe throw. but he'll still have a thrower that he can make use of. So it's not the end of the world. He's going to miss this catcher, I think, a little bit more. Mighty Blow catcher, the only Mighty Blow on the team. Yeah, I mean, he did a pretty good job getting removals in this game, but not having any Mighty Blow kind of sucks. I feel sorry for coaches who have to live with that. So level ups for orcs. You have Polus, the lineman. There's no dirty player on the team, but I don't know if you need dirty player. I guess you could do block. Maybe you'd be looking to see if you can develop a sacker. Give him wrestle and tackle. That's not too great with movement 5, but it would kind of give him a tool that the team is lacking a little bit here. And I think he does need to get more tackle. Having only one tackle can really hurt him. For the Markirk, Mighty Blow tackle, he's already developed him as a great killer. So what's the typical killer skill that you give next? I mean, jump up if you can, obviously, but you need a double for that. What's the usual thing? I'm not sure. You could give him Dauntless. That wouldn't be terrible. You could give, though not as necessary, given that you have Strength 4 players. You could give him Guard, though I'm not a big fan of having Guard on Pylon players. Frenzy? I think Frenzy is probably... I think I'd go with Frenzy on that. Let's see what he did. Okay, it looks like he got block, which is reasonable. He has a lot of block. He got jugs. Yeah, I mean, I think I would have preferred going Frenzy and then jugs myself. But it's fine. It's fine. Not totally sure how big of an advantage of having jugs on this player is compared to something like Frenzy. But also, a lot of coaches, myself included, are very hesitant about Frenzy just because I feel like there's a lack of control that you give up. You have to be wary of Frenzy traps. Okay, and there was a level up with the Bourbon Street Brawlers. Lineman. Well, he's going to give him another dirty player, obviously. Now, you can't have too few dirty players. Oh, did he give him kick? Jeez. Never been so disappointed in my entire life. Well, I guess he only has one dirty player, though the number 11 is going to level up relatively soon, so maybe his plan is to give him dirty player. Let's hope that that's what his strategy is. Yeah. Okay, the Rex Lupus and versus the El Perio Contratica. So I thought that in the first drive, the Chorfs did a really good job of boxing the Necro in. They did a great job of using their guard and their Minotaur and their build centers, just having that muscle to box the Rex Lupus in. It helped that the Flesh Golem had a Kaz, so they lost some of that muscle. Minotaur, though I disapprove of the Minotaur, I think was put to good use in containing the Necro, but has good of a job that I feel like the Chorfs did in trying to contain the Necro. I think the Necro did a really good job of escaping it, which gave them the ultimate score. I think like one problem with the Minotaur, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before, but I felt it again in this game. Even though the Minotaur I think was pretty critical for boxing in strategy, it left one fewer hobgoblins on the field, which meant that when there was opportunities to get at the ball, there wasn't a great retrieval strategy that could go into it. If the hobgoblin or one of the two hobgoblins that would be on the field were just out of position. So yeah, I still think you should fire the Minotaur, even though it did, I think, prove pretty useful in that first half. And for the Necro team, when they were trying to stop the two-turner from the Chorfs, they did the classic lazy defense of having the players line up towards the back. I don't think he put them the furthest away, but they were still just lined up in the back, and I don't think it worked well for him. It did ultimately work, but I think it worked more because of bad dice from the Chorfs. They need to score with a 2+, 3+, 2+, 2+, which is not that hard. If they were fortunate that like it was the first 2+ that was failed, but a 2+, 3+, 2+, 2+ to score is not that difficult. And if they had set up better for a two-turner, I think they could have either prevented any chance of the score or reduced the chances even further. In the second half, the Necro in the second half, the Necro blitz for the kickoff event, and that allows the ball to fall right into the Wolf's hand. The Chorfs respond with a fireball, which is, I thought, an interesting inducement for Chorfs to take a fireball, but it definitely worked in this case because it caused a Kaz on a ghoul and a KO on the Wolf. But the Wolf with the ball stayed on his feet, so it was successful and yet a failure at the same time. The sack against the Wolf that had the ball failed, and that gave the Necro their second score. In the final drive, I don't know if it's because Pichon decided that he was not going to win anyway, so he just wanted to do some damage, but he prioritized fouling the Wolf instead of protecting the ball. I guess it's like if that's the way you want to play it, that you're like, well, I'm going to lose anyway, so let's have some fun fouling. I get that, but personally, I like to try to reduce the margins as much as I can. Just try to make the win closer. And you never know, with Blood Bowl, there could always be an opportunity to turn things around. Well, not always, but there could be. Yeah, and there was along the same lines. Pichon basically decided to try a surf instead of scoring. So yeah, probably just decided like screw it, I'm gonna see if I can kill someone, which is a fair enough way to play the game if you're in that situation, if that's what you enjoy. Okay, just a bunch of badly hurts and Rex Lupus with no level ups. Not a lot of level ups this week. I think that's partly due to the fact that a lot of these teams are pretty well developed, and so it takes longer to get a level up. Bull Centaur got a strength bust, so that's probably retirement city for Rodrigo Diaz de Favre. Let's see if he was able to. With 60,000 winnings, he might have been able to buy a new Centaur. Yes, he did. All right. Well, his old Centaur was a pretty good Centaur with block and break tackle, so he's gonna miss that as a tool, but at least he's able to afford a new one, and it doesn't cripple the team too much, so it's not too bad, but definitely unfortunate from Pigeon's point of view. We have the Big Dipper versus Soul Power. So I have a theory about this game. And my theory is that before the game took place, Sticky B made a blood oath to the gods of the Old Ones that he will only score with a Saurus. No skink was allowed to score in this game. If he was gonna score at all, he was gonna score with a Saurus. And my god, did he ever make a lot of attempts to score on a Saurus. There's multiple attempts to pick up the ball that failed, a few attempts that succeeded. I really enjoyed the Saurus getting the 6+ to catch the ball on the high kick. And also, I very much enjoyed the failed pickup by the Saurus, bounces to the Saurus next to him, and then bouncing back to him, and then rolling the 6 to catch the ball when he had failed to roll the 5 previously. That was fun. But every time the ball was in the Saurus' hands, the Soul Powers were able to get off them. So to what I'm sure will be Sticky B's internal shame, he eventually did pick the ball up with a skink and score with a skink. Shame. Shame. Yeah. Very, very, very poor showing. Oh, in all seriousness, though, I think it was clearly a development strategy on the part of Sticky B, which, like, I had 2 seasons with Lizards where I was in pretty similar positions as Sticky B, where my team was just so much underdeveloped compared to everyone else that I felt like every game was an uphill climb at best to win. But I still I still couldn't bring myself to do this strategy of let's try scoring a Saurus to just get some development. Because I like winning too much. So good for you, Sticky B, for having a long-term plan for your team and sticking with it. I admire that. On the Necro side, another shocking week where dumping pass actually worked. The dump off skill that I have criticized over and over again worked for the second time in a row. I think Rodello is on a mission to prove me wrong, and I'm kind of cheering for him now. If if he can pull it off again this week, then I will give him a gold star, the recapper gold star for, okay, this will work some of the time, at least. Just a couple of points that I want to make. Specific plays for both coaches. Sticky B gave up a chance to score in the first half by moving his skink forward to get a serve rather than moving the skink back to be near the ball so he could pick up the ball and then hand off to another skink for the score. I'm not a big fan of giving up ball play for serves, especially when you're coming to the end of the half. Having that player off the field didn't make a big difference. Yes, you do get an opportunity to roll an injury roll against them, but that versus the opportunity to score just feels like the score is more important in that moment. On the Necro side, on turn 12, he could have made the ball safe by moving a zombie over by 2 squares to base both the SARS. I think he had a plan to move some players into the position that I'm talking about, but he had to roll dice to do that, and it was the more critical spot to put a player. So the free player, I feel like, really needed to go there, and it would the SARS would have had to roll like a 5+ to dodge out and hit the ball if the zombie had been there, which probably wouldn't have happened, so the ball would have been decently safe. Even if, which ultimately happened, I think it was the wolf that failed to dodge out, that I think was on its way to make the ball safe. So just something to consider if you go back and look at the games. We have a level up on the Kroxigor, and I am hoping that he gets guard. Unless he gets a double, in which case I'm hoping he gets diving tackle, because that would be fun. Guard, yep. Pretty good. Skink. I was going to say, like, a pretty good amount of guard on this team, but just the guard on the skink gets me every time. We should start death pool for that skink, because that skink is definitely so 100% dead. Okay, BBC versus the Exploding Skulls. Don't have a lot of notes for this game, mostly because because they had to restart the game. I missed what happened for most of the first half because the recording for the previous version disappeared. Well, actually, I just realized I could have checked in their history to see if it was there, but I suspect it wouldn't have been there anyway. But I might check that later, just because now I'm curious how the game handles that. But I suspect they just delete the old replay. They had to restart because I think one of their computers crashed, which is unfortunate, but I say 100% kudos to both coaches for the way they handled the situation. You could see on Discord that they were all for recreating the conditions as best as they can. Even Abram, who lost his one of his claws players, I think the one with Mighty Blow no less, agreed to keep that player off the pitch so that they could recreate the condition that casualty happened. Obviously, you can't get back to SVP, but I think it's really good for Abram and good for Robin to have such a spirit of let's restart the game in a way that's best reflects how it would have gone if there was no crash. So great on both of you. There was push play that I really liked on BBC side. That I think it was towards a two-turner where they pushed the ball center out of range of the touch line. I think they did it without hitting the ball center. It was a push play, so I really liked that. I really like push plays. I think there's a certain elegance to them, so I wanted to note that. A key moment in the game was when there was double skulls from a bull. That meant the Chorf ball carrier in the second half wasn't able to escape the surrounding that the elves had put him through. Ball carrier Hob was knocked down, and the ball ended up in the elf hands, and the rest, as they say, is history. So this was a 2-0 win for Robin and his BBC. In terms of casualties, no perms. We have M&G from the leap, one of the 2 leap catchers, but the better one. So that is an unfortunate loss for BBC for the next week, but he still has his 2 strength 4 players. He still has another leap player, so it shouldn't be too crippling toward his team. He leveled up a blitzer. Given how we've seen him develop his other players, I highly suspect this is going to be dodge, which I think is fair enough to do. Yes, he gives him dodge. Level ups on the Chorfs. Yes, a Hobgoblin. He has a dirty player Hobgoblin. He has a ball carrier Hobgoblin. Maybe he'll be developing a Sacker Hobgoblin in the form of Wrestle and Tackle. I know I keep saying like people should develop that player, but I really like the Wrestle and Tackle. It's not a player that I can really use on a lizard team, but on my human teams and my other teams that I use in CCL, I always really love having the Wrestle Tackle as an option. But let's see what he's done. Block, which I'm not too sure about. Like, yes, it means that you can do safe hits with the Hobgoblin. Maybe it also protects the Hobgoblin a little bit more, but it doesn't really add a lot of value to a team that already has a great deal of block. So I'm going to stick with my recommendation for Wrestle. If you level up someone else, I recommend that you use Wrestle. It just adds an additional tool that your team currently lacks. Okay, last game. So the number one thing that I think we can say about this team or this game rather, is that it was pretty brutal for the face planters. The Chicago Bolsheviks got removals early, and they just kept on getting removals. It was I caught the tail end of it live, and I could sort of just feel the despair coming off of it, the screen. It was pretty brutal to then go back and watch the whole game and get the context where it's like it had been like that the whole game, where he was just losing players left, right, and center. There was a really good chance for Morgerson to score the first half, and I'm tempted to say that he was unlucky to not have scored. But at the same time, at that point, there were 5 L's left on the pitch, and only 2 of them were loners. So I feel like calling him unlucky in that first half would be a bit of a stretch. My heart does not bleed too much for him for failing to get that touchdown that he came pretty close to getting. Spoon did get a measure of vengeance, though, by killing the Agi 5 catchers. I was very pleased last week to see the Agi 5 catcher because I thought that it filled the hole that Innovation and I had been talking about on this team in terms of the retrieval piece. So, of course, that piece immediately dies. Yeah, I posted my formal apology on Discord for cursing that player, but I'd just like to repeat it now. I'm sorry, Anna Pavlovna Pavlova II. Your death is clearly on my hands. Yeah, this is the other game I think I alluded to earlier where diving tackle just made a huge difference. Uh, there were multiple times when the elf's turn was cut short by diving tackle. Uh, Obviously, try to do those dodges out last, but when you have 5 players on the team, there's not a lot to do first. So, very unfortunate. The icing on the cake from Chicago Bullshite's point of view is that there is a fireball that was 0 for 4. That's it was like in the replay, there was almost like a second where like I was like, wait, did the fireball just happen? Was that a glitch? Because you see the fireball coming down, and then you see nothing. Just everyone standing on the feet, resisting. That must have I think I saw after the game discussion between these two coaches, and I think Spoon was um, not salty, if I recall, or not very salty at the very least. So kudos for him. I think I would have been very salty after this game. Uh, One play by Spoon that I did really like was he pushed a loner who was on the ground into contact with the ball so he could jump up and blitz on a red die with a loner. Like, yeah, okay, this doesn't sound like a great play, but at that point, it was kind of, I am in such a bad position. I'm just going to try this and see how this works. At that point, it was still 0-0. So a miracle play could have worked. It would require a 136 because he was hitting a Lodge player with red die. But hey, 136 happen when they're bad, so 136 can happen when they're good. And I like the never give up, never surrender attitude of that play. Though Face Planter did kind of give up trying to chase the ball, but at that point, so much of his team was brutalized that it's hard to blame him for that. Permans, Edville Sidewinder got an armor bust, which doesn't matter, but was just kind of doesn't matter in the long term. But when Sidewinder went down, there was another moment where I felt kind of bad for Spoon. He lost his brand new blitzer. Gonna create quite a bit of financial trouble trying to piece this team back together. But he did level up a catcher, so we'll look at that in a moment. Chicago Bullshite, as I mentioned before, they lost their Agi 5 catcher, and they leveled up Russell Lyman. So the catcher, you probably give dodge, and the lineman, I would give tackle. Like there is already a fair bit of tackle on this team, but I think like having a little more wouldn't go amiss. And if he rolls a double and gets guard, that's obviously better, but if he already has the wrestle, he might as well have tackle. Maybe strip ball, but I don't think that that's as useful. So let's see. Did Dead did Dead 7 get dodge? He did indeed. Oh man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players. He's gonna have 6 loners. Wow. Just a whole lot of wow. I think he mentioned that if he loses one of these remaining 4 players, one of his 4 core players, he's going to reroll the team. I would not blame him at all for doing that. Those are still 4 really good players that he could rebuild a team around. So I would respect the hanging in there, but I would also very understand the re-rolling at this point. Okay, and did we get tackle on our wrestle guy? Nope, better. He got strength up. That's useful. That gives him another strengthy player in which he can do strengthy stuff with. So yeah, I would definitely take that. Yeah, you can even developmentally down the road give him tackle, which would make him a good piece to jump in. Could get a 2-die with tackle and wrestle. Could make him like an extra kind of sacker that would be pretty useful. So yeah, that would be interested to see how White Swan progresses. Quite a bit of time for him to level up again, but he got the first 16, he can get the next 16, and we'll see what he gets. Okay, let's take a look at the standings. So, quick analysis of this, I would say that the top 3 teams here, the Chicago Bullshite, Children of Dune, Bourbon Street Brawlers, are the ones that are really in the competition for playoffs. The Nuffle Ex Machina and BBC have an outside chance of just there's probably enough time that technically they would have a chance if everything goes their way. But it looks to me like the top 3 teams are starting to pull away a bit, and the rest of the season, in terms of the race to the playoffs, is going to be shaped by how those 3 teams perform. That said, the competition for Challenger Cup spot is still very much on. I would say Barry and the lads still has a decent chance. Barry and the lads and El Impero Contract. They've those 3 teams, 7, 8, 10. I would say have an outside chance. I was going to say more. I said Barry and the lads, but I meant to say Soul Power upwards still have a strong chance of getting into the Challenger Cup. Though in a lot of ways they'll be competing for that 4th spot, unless Kanuki just has his collapse due to the fact that his team is basically dead. Oh, no, actually, am I confusing? No, sorry, it's the Face Planters that are dead. I was mixing up the Face Planters and the Bourbon Street Brawlers. No, the Bourbon Street Brawlers are still very much alive and doing well. It's the unfortunate Face Planters who are suffering quite a bit this season. So yeah, I mean, but at the same time, Kanuki, Pro Elves is a team that can suffer collapses, and so are Skaven. So things aren't impossible to happen here, but again, I do feel like the rest of the season will be shaped by the top 3 players. Okay, so I have done this in less than an hour. Uh, Goes a lot faster when I'm just doing all the talking. So I hope that Innovation will be back with us soon. And again, anyone else is welcome to join me. I toyed with the idea of doing this live on stream. I ultimately didn't because I felt like I didn't give enough notification for enough people to join in to make it fun. Like I'd like 2 or 3 of you at least to come in and we can have a chat. But the way things have kind of shaped up, I didn't want to like say this is the time I'm doing it and then not be able to do it. I want a little bit of flexibility, so I decided to just record it and then post it. But in the future, if I feel like I have a better idea of when I'm going to do this, I will absolutely uh, try out stream. I've started streaming games that I've been playing, and I did it once, and I thought it was kind of fun. I'm gonna, as I said earlier, I'm gonna do it again and see if I continue to enjoy it. If I don't, I'll stop, and if I do enjoy it, I will continue. Maybe I won't do it every game. I'll see how I feel on the day. Um, yeah. So, should I talk about next week's games? I don't like making predictions. I'm not a big fan of doing that. Yeah. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Everyone, have fun and good luck.